Hello, my name is Nancy Young, and welcome to another episode of Your Voice Matters with Nancy Young, a program highlighting the positive voices within our local communities and how they're impacting and uplifting our world, one person at a time. Now, before we get started, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. Today, we'll be highlighting your voice through that of generational wealth and entrepreneurship. My guest is from Oakland, California. His name is Mr. David Brooks. He is with World Financial Group. At this time, welcome, David. Thanks for joining us today. So you're with World Financial Group out of San Jose. And so I know that you have a passion for entrepreneurship and financial wealth or general wealth. And so your journey really begun years ago when you worked for AT&T. And so how long did you work for AT&T?
31 years.
Okay, for 31 years. So tell me about that journey, how you got into financing yourself.
Yeah, retired in 2012, and I the first started off in budget and results. Did that for 7 years. Because I could type and do 10 key by touch and bookkeeping, so I got into the budget and results department. Then I always wanted to work with computers, so went back to school, took a programming class called COBOL, which stands for Common Business Oriented Language. And then I became a data specialist working with the 911 computer. So we maintain the database for all of Northern California. And so basically how that worked, when you would call 911, when it's the person at the call center, when they saw your name, it would list your address. And we maintain that database for all of Northern California. So I did that for 2 years. Then I got downsized. Then I got offered a job in Palo Alto. So I had to commute from Oakland to Palo Alto. Did that for 6 years. Then they downsized me again. So then I went back to school, got my degree in electronics at the College of San Mateo. And then I transferred into we call it special services, and where I was dealing with fiber optics. So I did that for the last 16 years of my career. And then in 93, I started, in 89, I really got serious about my finances. So I just started saving my money. And then 4 years later, in 93, I bought my first piece of property. I bought a duplex. I was going to buy a house, but a friend of mine who was investing before me, he said, don't get you a house. Why don't you buy you some income property? And then he said, once you get enough of those, that positive cash flow will pay for your primary residence. And you'll be living, you'll be staying for free. So I thought about it. It made sense. So instead of buying a house, I bought a duplex. And then 2 years later, I bought a fourplex. And a year later, I bought another duplex. And I just did it more. And then at one point, and at one time, I had up to 8 properties.
And since then, when did you get involved with World Financial Group, rather? Kind of twisted the words around.
Well, in 2014, I became a client first.
Okay.
Because a friend of mine, a friend asked me about coming to check out their office, and I said I'm set, because I had already been retired from AT&T 2 years. I have a broker at Wells Fargo who managed my retirement account. So I said I got somebody handling that. I got my rental income. I got my retirement income coming in. So I said I'm set. Plus I had life insurance with New York Life. And so I told her I'm set. So then she had another friend of mine call me from San Diego, a mutual friend. Sometimes you have to use a third party approach. And then he said, just come down, just take out what we have to offer. There's no obligation to buy anything. So I said, okay, I did. I called myself doing him a favor. So I went down, and then, they show you a presentation. And once I saw the presentation, I was blown away, because some of the products that we offer, like with Transamerica, I had a cash value life insurance with New York Life. And how that happened, once I started buying multiple pieces of property, my net worth went up. And then I got a letter in the mail from a insurance broker with New York Life. He said, how would you like to learn how to set up a legacy plan? And that intrigued me. So I met him, and I was working in Redwood City at the time. So I met him at their San Mateo office, and he had me basically said, bring in all your financial information. Well, he gave me a list of things to get together. So it took about a week to 2 weeks to get it together. Then we met back again. I get information. Then he said, we'll meet back in a week or two with my proposal. And then he suggested that I start buying more life insurance, because if I was to pass away, my daughter, it would have, unless the property is paid for outright, your family members would have to reapply for the loan under their income. And if they can't qualify for the loan, then they'll have to sell the property because they can't afford to keep it. They just can take over my loan and keep making the mortgage payments. It doesn't work like that. So he suggests that you get enough life insurance to pay the house off or the rental property off. That way, once my daughter inherits it, it'll be paid for scot-free, and she won't have to worry about a mortgage.
I don't think a lot of people realize that that's how it works. And
yes,
and especially for those who leave it behind thinking that their loved ones are secure in what they have and don't have a strategy to pay it off, so that you don't have to worry about people getting approved for it. That's really important. So now, so that's how you got more interested in life insurance. So where from there did you go to how did you get involved in not only, being a client, but becoming the person with clients?
Well, basically a friend of mine invited me down to the World Financial Group office in Hayward. And so I called myself doing him a favor, because I thought I had up to $1 million worth of life insurance with New York Life. So I called myself being set, And so basically I went down, saw the presentation, and the reason why I left New York Life and went to Transamerica, who's my insurance company now, is because on the cash value side, Transamerica pays up to 15% interest, and New York Life only paid up to 6%. So that made more sense. If I can earn 9% more on my money, why not leave one company and go to another? And any interest that I earn inside of my life insurance policy, I don't have to pay taxes on that interest also. So it's tax, as opposed to leaving it inside of my IRA or 401k, where you have to pay up to 40% taxes. So that made more sense. And that concept has been around since 1913. The IRS passed the law, and states it's called a 7702A, is the IRC code, and it allows you to earn interest inside a life insurance policy as long as you take it out as a loan. You don't have to pay taxes on it. But if you take it out as a withdrawal, you have to pay taxes on it. So that's how you avoid the taxes, by taking the money out as a loan. But you never have to pay the loan back. They just deduct it from your death benefit.
Wow, that's good to know.
Then after that, so they had the broker. She had me bring her all my policies from New York Life, and plus I also had policies for my grandkids, because it was a way for me to save money for them towards their future. Plus they also had insurance, and so she looked at those policies. She looked at my policies. And then she suggested that I keep my policies at New York Life because of my age, because it would cost more to get more insurance with Transamerica at my age. But eventually I bought some anyway. And so, but I transferred all the money from my grandkids' policies over to Transamerica. So I became a client first. And then they said, how would you like to earn additional income? I said, of course. And then they said, would you like to come work with us? And I said, well, I don't know if I'm going to work another 9-to-5 job. I just got through 31 years at AT&T. And they say, no, you can just be a referral agent, and you can refer us clients, get your license with the state of California, refer us clients, and then when those clients do business with World Financial Group, I'll split the commission 50-50. So it's commission-based business. And I say, well, I can do that because I know a lot of people. I grew up in Oakland, been here my entire life. So I definitely can refer you people. And then eventually in 2015, July of 2015, I got my license and started to just do it full time, because I wanted to educate the African American community on financial literacy, because that's our mission. Our main motto is no family left behind, because the African American community we were way left behind in American society. We did a recent survey, and they said the average Caucasian family's net worth is $171,000. The average Hispanics family net worth is $21,000, The average African American's family net worth is $17,000 in 2020, which is hard to believe. I couldn't believe that stat. So that means we got a whole lot of work to do.
Most definitely. Because part of your mission is no family left behind, and to educate the African American community, especially starting with young people. So talk to me about what are you doing in that arena? I know that you have done some career days at some of the Oakland high schools. Tell me about that. So how are you actually doing that in action?
Well, basically, about 3 years ago, going on 4 years, the secretary of my church, she did an announcement saying they were looking for people to be mentors. So first I started out being a mentor at Sankofa Middle School. And then we did that for a year. And we met with 6th, 7th, and 8th once a week. And we did that for a whole year. And then that program got shut. Well, then I started working at World Financial Group, and I didn't have time to commit that. So then I was in church one day, and she announced that they were looking for people to speak at a career day at McClymonds High School. So I volunteered for that. And so I did that for 3 years in a row. And basically, we were just going to the school and sit down with the seniors. It could be 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, and we would just tell them our story, because they were looking for people from different careers. Like it was a gentleman there, he was a firefighter. A gentleman was a baker. A lady was a lawyer. She talked about she got her law degree without even going to college. I was amazed by that, because everybody think you got to go to college to get a law degree, and she got her degree without even going to college. And so you meet people from all walks of life. A lady had her own she had her own cosmetology school shop, and it's about letting kids know that you don't always have to go to college. You may want to be an entrepreneur, because sometimes it may not be good to work 30, 40 years for a company to get 40% of your salary 40 years later. Because I was surprised. I worked at AT&T for 31 years, and at the height of my career, I was making about $6,000, $7,000 a month. But then when I retired, my retirement was only $2,900 a month after 31 years. So that's like a slap in the face to me. But that's all they offered me for my retirement. And so one thing I did is I knew that I wasn't going to depend on them for my retirement. So that's why I started investing in real estate in 1993. And I even took money out of my 401k for the down payment, because I knew I would make more money in real estate than it would sitting inside a 401k. And then eventually I got into the stock market in 1997. I was in the bank one day. I was working a lot of overtime at AT&T. And so I was in the bank, and they must have looked at my balance of my account, and they said, "How would you like to earn more interest?" And I said, "Of course." So they set me down with a stockbroker. And this was in 1997. And that's when I started investing in stock, and I've been doing it ever since, and I've done pretty good. Like I have Google, Amazon, I had Tesla, so that recently I just bought Zoom, because when the coronavirus, my company, we were all doing all our training and appointments on Zoom, and we did 60 days worth of training on Zoom. So a light bulb went on in my head. I said, if we're on Zoom, I think everybody else is on Zoom too. And I said, I think that'd be a good company to invest in. So I bought the stock back in March of this year. And now that stock is up like 80% since I bought it in March. And so, and stock.
I should have invested in Zoom.
And then I also bought some pharmaceutical stock, companies trying to develop the vaccine for the coronavirus. So I invested in a company called Regeneron, and that stock's up about 30, 40% since I bought it. And so I've lost in stock, but I mostly gained in the stock market. Yeah, but I like, mostly I like stocks that pay dividends. And so that's another stream of income. So that's one thing you need in retirement, is multiple streams of income. But you got your retirement, you got your Social Security, and then that's about it. And so, but they said is, you want to have more one, because later on in life, when you retire, either you're going to reduce your expenses and live on live at a lower class, or you got to figure out a way to bring multiple streams of income in where you can maintain your current lifestyle. And I like to travel, I like to dress nice, I want to leave something. I want to leave a legacy to my daughter and my grandkids. And so that's why I was focused on financial literacy and generational wealth, because like my mom and dad are from Louisiana. Neither one of them graduated from high school. And so when I was 16 years old, this was really the turning point of my life. My dad hurt his back, went on permanent disability, and now we're barely making ends meet. So I got me a job at McDonald's when I was in 11th grade, because I knew my parents couldn't buy the stuff that I wanted. Like I wanted a car. I wanted the Converse. That's what we wore back in the day. So I started working at age 16, February of 1974. And then during the summer, I got another job through the school district. So I was working two jobs during the summer. I was working through the school district from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. at the Alameda Coast Guard base. And then I worked at McDonald's from 5:30 to 11:30 at night. So I was working 13 hours a day when I was 16 because I wanted a car. And I did that for the whole summer. And I was able to buy my car right off the floor. I bought a brand new car. And that's what I wanted. I didn't want a used car. I wanted a brand new car. And nobody thought I was going to achieve it. And I remember one day when I drove to work in my car, all the guys walked outside and said, how you going to afford that? And I said, just watch me. And I never missed a payment. And I still maintained a B average in high school, too.
It's the determination.
So I've been motivated.
Yeah, so having that determination, you can do a lot of things. You can do a lot of things with that. I actually worked at McDonald's all through high school. Myself, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade before I turned 16. But I did get a work permit. So I was able to start working to be able to, get those things that I know that I wanted and to do the things that I wanted to do. And I wanted a car. And I did get a car when I was 16. And so mine was used, but I had my own car. So it's, you've done a lot of things. I mean, because some people say, well, I just want to be that entrepreneur. Some people say, I just want to work for that company. People say, I want to learn how to invest. I want to do all these different things. But it seems that now your passion, having gone through all these different levels of life. So you started out working at AT&T. You worked there for a lot of years, 31 years. And then you just wanted to do something with your money. And then after you started investing with your money, but you had already learned about real estate. That was already an entrepreneurial type thing that you started doing already. And then you started investing your money and then find out how to help other people. So the good news in all of this whole thing about Your Voice Matters is sharing that good news, how you can help other people to find that for themselves, whether it's a passion in, investing. Maybe they just want to invest and they still have a job. Or maybe they want that flexibility now. Because if you had to do it all over again, would you do anything differently now?
Well, if I had to do it all over again, I would have started my own business sooner, because in the 80s, me and some gentlemen got together. We formed this construction company, and I was a bookkeeper because I was good in math. I've always been good with numbers. And so I'm in the right business, being a financial professional, because I've always been a numbers guy. And but I always wanted more out of life. I mean, and I knew AT&T couldn't provide me with everything I wanted. Plus, my hours were limited. I'd have to work overtime to buy the extra stuff that I wanted. But I've always, I even sold Avon back in the day. Back in the early 80s, I sold Avon because I worked in an office building which was 95% women. In a 10-story building, so I would just pass out my brochures in the building, and I was making about $200 or $300 a month, and that would pay my car note. And then I've had a candy machine business in the 90s, a quarter gumball machines. Me and a friend bought 8 of those, and we put them in tire shops and barber shops and restaurants. So I've always had that entrepreneurial mindset, because I knew just working a regular 9-to-5 wasn't going to get me to where I wanted to go, because there's a saying we use at World Financial Group: if you want a 6-figure income, you work 6 days a week. 7-figure income, you work 7 days a week. And with my AT&T job and my rental property, at one point I was busy 7 days a week. I was always had something to do, and then finally I had to start hiring people to do stuff, because I was doing the yard work, I was painting, I was fixing this or that, and then finally I started hiring professionals. Like I have electrician that I use all the time. I have a landscaper that I use all the time. I have a handyman that I use all the time. And so when the tenants call me, I just call somebody else. I don't do any work no more. I stopped that a long time ago. But, but at one point I had to do a lot of work, but I knew that all that work would pay off. Because there's an old saying, hard work pays off. And I've always been a hard worker. But I knew that like today, like I want to buy a home outside of the United States, like a vacation home somewhere, like in Dominican Republic. And then, but I can rent it out when I'm not there too. I'm looking into doing that. And then that way it'll be a family home, a vacation home for my family. And, you can, I mean, the sky's the limit. We shouldn't limit on the stuff that we want. But I also want to help people too, to let them know that if I can do it, you can do it. I'm nobody special. I didn't wake up knowing how, what I know now. I had to learn how to do it. And you learn by doing.
There's a lot that you had to build on that you could take from. But like you said, all along, you had that entrepreneurial spirit. And so I think a lot of people do have entrepreneurial spirits. They have an idea. They have different things that they like to do, but they feel stuck because they need to make sure that they can pay their bills, they can live, especially if people have children, people are married, people have more responsibility than just their own lives. I think people can take more chances when it's just them. But when you have other people dependent on you, then you need that bit of stability. And so what would be your message to people today? I mean, your whole thing about entrepreneurship and about generational wealth, right? So it's not general wealth, but it's generational wealth that you're looking at. Okay, so to go from, so explain that. Tell me what that is to you.
Well, to me is that when I leave this earth, that I'll be able to leave my family something. I'll be able to leave them benefits instead of debt. Because like when my mom and my dad passed in 2000, he made good money, but he didn't have any life insurance. So when he passed away, me and my brothers and sisters had to pay for his burial. We got $255 from Social Security. That's all they gave us from the federal government. And then when I started working with this at World Financial Group, I went to my mom and I said, "Do you have life insurance?" I never even thought to ask either one of them all these years. And my mom said no, but she was too old to get up to age 85, and she was 88 at the time I started working with this company. And so I had to pay for her. The family went in together, and had to pay for her service when she passed away in 2019. And so, and plus they wasn't educated coming from the South. They didn't even want them to go to high school back then, because they wanted to keep us. They wanted to look down on us, to be point blank. And so they wasn't educated on having a proper life insurance, because back in the, when life insurance first came out, when they targeted the African American community, they targeted us with term life insurance. And a lot of times, only 2% of the people benefit from term policy, because you usually outlive them. Because as long as you can get a term policy, it's 30 years. And then after that 30 years, now you're 30 years older, it's going to cost you a little bit more, because it's based on your life expectancy. And so that's why you need to buy it while you're young and hold on to it. So because I bought my first life insurance policy when I was 23, and it was $25,000 for me and for my daughter. And I kept that policy until 15, 16, when my daughter got her own policy. Then I canceled that one, because now she has her own life insurance, and I didn't need that one anymore. And so that's another way you can pass on generational wealth, is with life insurance. And sometimes we see it as like, some people say, well, my parents didn't leave me nothing and I turned out okay, that type of thing. But I want my family to be better off than what I was. That way they don't have to struggle like I did. I don't want them to have to work in high school, unless, like my grandson, he just got his first job at Carl's Jr. And I say, but as long as you keep your grades up, as long as it doesn't affect your grades, because I didn't even want my daughter to work. She wanted to work in high school. I let her work. I said, as long as you keep your grades up, because my grades did suffer. I would fall asleep in class in the afternoon because I would be tired. I'd be up till 11:30 at night, and then I didn't get home till 12. So I don't probably get to sleep till like 12:30, 1 o'clock. Then I got to get up to be to school. So it took a toll on me, but I just made it work. But if you have a goal, sometimes you got to make sacrifices. So I couldn't. When I was running my business, I couldn't go out party with my friends like I wanted to, and I had to give up some of that stuff, and then once I started you have to change the people you hang around. You got to change. It's a mindset thing. You got to change your mindset because you have to change your association because they said you are who you hang around. And there's another saying we have too. They say if you're in a room of people and you're the smartest person in the room, then you're hanging around the wrong group of people. Because you want to be in a room of people that's going to make you think more. That's going to elevate you to another level. And that's what we preach at World Financial Group.
So there's a couple of things that you said there. As far as being the smartest person in the room, sometimes you are that mentor. Sometimes you are that smartest one. But that's not who you should surround yourself with. You need to always push yourself. And then you need to be in other rooms where people are smarter than you, where you can inspire, where you can push yourself to get further. And I thought about, even working. I worked through high school because I wanted to. Not because I had to, but I wanted to. And there were some other things that I wanted to do. And I think it still inspires independence and responsibility. When I got to college, I actually snuck and got a job because my father didn't want me to work. He wanted me to focus on my studies. Now, I was an A student in high school. And then even in college, when I was at UC Berkeley, I worked for the state health department. And so I didn't tell my father I had a job until I wanted to move off campus. And then I told him I had found an apartment. I had my whole budget laid out. And I told him the whole thing. He's like, well, okay, then how are you going to pay for it? Well, Daddy, I have a job and I can afford my own apartment. And so then he was like, okay, fine. But as long as he didn't have to pay for it, see, it was all on me. I went to college for free, and I didn't realize that my dorm was free too, as long as I was there. But when I moved out, my housing became my own personal thing because I wanted to live off site. But the thing is, so it's important that young people, everyone have a bit of responsibility, but they have to be able to balance that. So for me in college, working actually helped me balance my studies. I had too much free time on my hand when I wasn't working. And then by the time it was time for me to study, I was tired because I had watched all my children and One Life to Live and General Hospital and Oprah. And so when I should have just been studying. So when I got a job, it curtailed my extra things and I focused on my work. So for me, it just worked kind of weird for me. So one thing that really has stood out in this entire conversation has been life insurance, because I don't think a lot of people focus on that. And when you said term life insurance, that really hit me because I bought term life insurance back when I was in my 20s. And so, and I've had other insurance along the way, but I'm sure that many people don't understand the differences between them. And as you mentioned earlier, as far as being able to take loans from them as well, as far as to be able to invest versus, and then they just take it from the death benefit at the end. So can you talk to us about some options that people can have or should be looking into when it comes to life insurance and how that really does help not only now, but generational wealth?
Okay. Well, as far as what term, it still can be a good thing because you can use term for different type of things. Usually you use a term insurance policy to cover a temporary debt, like say your mortgage. You may have a 30-year mortgage, and if you're a married couple, or even if you're single, and you have kids, you'll get a term policy big enough to cover your mortgage. That way, if either one of the spouses pass away, the life insurance will pay off the home, and now they can stay in the home. They won't have to move to a neighborhood. Because what if the breadwinner passes away, and now the husband or the wife is left with the house, and now they can't afford the mortgage, and then they can't requalify for that loan. They can end up losing that house and maybe have to move into an apartment building or to a smaller home in a neighborhood that they may not like. So that's why you may get say if you have a $300,000 loan, a mortgage on your home, you can buy a $300,000 term policy for 30 years, because usually the average mortgage is 30 years. So you can get a term policy in that scenario. But see, now we have...
I feel better for that because that's what I was going to use mine was for the mortgage, so that it would pay off the mortgage. Yeah. So at least I don't feel like I was just used and targeted. But okay, continue with the next.
Yeah. So, and then they have whole life, and which pays maybe 3 to 4 or 5% interest. But the thing about whole life policies is that if you don't pull the cash value out of the policy, when you pass away, the company keeps the cash value. They don't give it to the beneficiaries. They just get the Like say if you have $100,000 whole life policy, and you've had it for like 30 years, and you generate another 100,000 in cash value. If you don't pull that money out before you pass away, the company will keep that $100,000 cash value and just give your family the $100,000 death benefit. So that's
Yeah,
how whole life works.
Yeah, how do you know? How do you know when you're going to pass away? So that's the
You
thing.
don't know that.
So how do you utilize that cash value?
You take it out as a loan because you get an annual statement, so it shows your cash value. And so and that's what I did with New York Life. Once my cash value started growing, I pulled that money out for down payment on real estate. I use that for down payments. If I didn't pull it out of my 401k, then I pulled it out of my life insurance policy.
That's good information to know. Thank you.
Yeah, then they came out with variable policies, because the first policy I bought in 1983, it was a variable policy with Equitable Life Insurance out of San Francisco. And basically, part of your premium is for insurance, and part of your premium is invested in the stock market. And so, and then I've earned, and then and I made a few $1,000s off of that small little $25 a month policy that I kept until 2015. And then they came out with universal life policy. That's what I bought with the New York Life. And then basically, some companies will pay you dividends, some companies will pay you interest. And then basically at the end of the year, depending on how the company performs, they'll pay you your dividends. And then you just show you on your annual statement. And then, but see, that dividend, when it's a universal policy, the interest and your dividends is added to the death benefit. So now it increases your death benefit. So say you start out with a $100,000 policy, and then then this year you earn like $2,000 or $3,000 in interest or dividends. Policy is worth $103,000. So it's called an increasing death benefit. And so that means if I pass away, my family would get the death benefit plus the cash value. They would get all of it together. So so those are the policies to get. But with New York Life, when I took a loan out, they charged interest on the loan, which was like 6%, which is kind of high. And so it kind of then that interest can eat into your death benefit too, because they got to take the interest from somewhere. So they're going to take it from your cash value. So you have to be careful when you borrow money from your policies too, because you want to look at how much when you're looking at the policies, you want to look at how much interest are they going to be charging me on the loan. With Transamerica, they charge you 3%, so that's better than New York Life. And then after so many years, they credit you back 2.75%. So now you're getting a 0.25% loan, that's like pennies on the dollar. And with Transamerica, they have the policy that's called an Index Universal Life. And so how that works is like universal and variable. It will go up and down with the market. So sometimes you can make money, but sometimes you can lose some of that interest too, depending on how the market performs. But with Index Universal Life, when the market goes up, your money grows. But when the market goes down, it locks those interests in place, so you never lose it. The average person lost 30 to 40% in their 401ks and their IRAs when the market crashed from the coronavirus. 30 to 40%. Imagine, what if you were getting close to retirement, and then this hit, and now you didn't lost 30 to 40% of your retirement account. And they say the average person got about $40,000 in their 401ks. And how do they expect you to live off of that when you retire? That's why you see people working longer and longer, because they can't afford to retire. Or if they do retire, they get another job to make ends meet. So that's why it's good to have those indexing policies. And then a lot of companies don't talk about indexing because they don't make enough commission off of those products. That's why they want to keep you in variable products. Because Charles Schwab, Merrill Lynch, a friend of mine, a gentleman worked there, and he went to his boss and said, how come we don't sell index products? And he said, because we don't make enough commission off of them. That's why. And at World Financial Group, that's what we preach, index products. And we only get paid one time. Once we set you up, we never get paid again. So we're looking out for the client's best interest and not our best interest.
Wow. So that's really good though. And that's helpful to help people for their future. So I really appreciate the conversation today that we've had on that, because it's eye-opening for me, and I'm sure it's eye-opening for a lot of other people. And for people who don't know where to start or where to go, then can they get in touch with you, Mr. Brooks?
Well, of course. Yeah, so they
And so
can,
what would be the best way? And I will put your information on the screen. So what is the best contact for you?
well, my phone number is 510-304-9931. And then my email address is D as in David, C as in Charles, B as in Brooks, WFG 2015 at gmail.com.
Okay.
And we're always looking for people to come work. And we're always looking for people to come work with us part-time. And, you know, and the average part-timers make between $3,000 and $5,000 a month. And that's some people's whole regular salary.
That is. So this is not only an opportunity to invest, to get life insurance, investing in yourself and also in your family, but also an opportunity for entrepreneurship for those who are looking for something else to do on the side, maybe something to take over their lives and give more flexibility. So thank you so much, David, for joining me today. And so I really hope that this has come through clearly, because the information that you gave is priceless. And I truly appreciate your time today. So is there anything else that you want to add before we end?
One other thing about our company too, once you become a broker, you can pass your business on to your family. And that's another way of creating generational wealth, because you can become a broker in our business. And one thing about our company is that certain insurance companies, they don't, like a State Farm. If you want to be a broker, you got to go and open up your own office and spend maybe $100,000 to open up that office. You don't have to do that in World Financial Group. You know, so it's our overhead is a whole lot inexpensive than some of the big firms.
Yeah, it's great. So the opportunity to become an entrepreneur, the opportunity to have a coach there to help you to do that. So I really hope that those who are watching today and every day that this is watched, that take the opportunity to reach out to David. Think about investing in yourself. Look at the opportunities for entrepreneurship and just everything for your future to make it better, and even after you leave here, for your generations behind you. So again, thank you so much, David, for joining us today. And it was great.
You're welcome.
So have a great day.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you inviting me to the show. Thank you.
Again, thank you to David Brooks for joining us today and sharing how your voice is truly making a difference through that of generational wealth and entrepreneurship. Today, you highlighted a lot that had to do with life insurance and many things that our public should know. So thank you once again. If you like information about how to get in touch with Mr. David Brooks, please see the information on the screen below and start your new journey today. Again, thank you for joining us for another episode of Your Voice Matters with Nancy Young. If you've enjoyed this programming, please hit the like and subscribe button. And now until next time, remember, your voice matters. If you have something positive to share and you would like your voice to be highlighted on Your Voice Matters with Nancy Young, please contact me at yvmwithnancy@gmail.com. And if you've enjoyed this programming, please hit the subscribe button right now. Thank you.